In our last show, Cole, we were talking about images you love. What are your thoughts about the image that you have on the screen? I think somebody just buy that in your print sales?
Yeah, someone just bought that, and I was looking at the finished print, and I had two thoughts. The first was, my gosh, I just love this image, everything about it. The
Yeah.
second thought was, sometimes digital images on a small screen don't compare to a 10 by 15 print in front of your face, where
Yeah.
you can see these incredible tones and details. And I think, what a shame that everyone can't experience a print in their hands
Yeah,
versus,
no kidding.
a little teeny screenshot on our phone. It's a
Yeah.
shame.
It is a shame, and maybe that's something we should touch on too. But man, the value of a print, and folks, all I can tell you is when we do workshops together, and Cole is with me doing that, he is kind enough to bring prints that he allows people to take one. And the reaction is always the same. They're blown away by the print, not only the prints and the images and the work, the art, but just seeing a print and holding it in their hands. It's really an exciting thing to watch, honestly. And to
Oh,
continue on our last show, in this idea of loving your work and being comfortable, what I love is that Cole will always watch what people bought, if they bought or picked, rather, in this case picked, and then he does allow people to buy some things too, if they wish, but he likes to have a conversation with them about what it is that they loved, and he'll have a little dialogue about what happened when he was making that image or why he loves that image. And I think it adds so much to the process of these folks selecting these prints. It's wonderful to watch. It's great interaction.
early on when I was starting to print my work and show it, there was a discussion of how should you name a print. And, you go through the different phases trying to describe it or making a flowery, cutesy name. And I finally have just come down to a very simple, like power lines number one, power lines number two, power lines number three,
Yeah.
very clear. And then I remember telling stories about the image, and people would say, well, if you have to tell a story about the image, then the image didn't speak for itself. So it's clear it wasn't a successful image. And what I've finally learned is I shouldn't explain what the image is saying or what I thought I was saying when I created it. But people love to hear the story behind the image. It somehow makes it a lot more personal. And when you think of the angel Gabriel, I think it's a great image. But when you hear the story and the lesson learned, I think it makes it 10 times more powerful. So I've come to believe we don't explain what our images mean, but sometimes telling the story behind the image can really be useful.
Boy, and let me give you another plug. If you haven't been to Cole's website, he has a whole series of audio, be the story behind the image. And they're powerful. They're really powerful. And I couldn't agree more, Cole. I think the idea of adding, and I like that you carefully differentiated the story behind the image rather than what it means, because we've talked about that one image in Auschwitz, I believe it is, or Birkenau, where the person is standing still,
The
and
Lone Man.
you've never expressed what your feeling is and what that means, but you've had people like 15 different reactions to that, because I do think the viewers is bringing, I believe this strongly, we talk about bringing our own vision to creating images. I think that same vision is brought to the act of viewing other people's work. They're going to view it differently than you do. You can and so I think what we do is we release our work to the world, and at that point we no longer are involved in that process. Now it's up to the viewer to connect with that image in the way that they do. But having those words that say, especially Angel Gabriel, it gives me goosebumps every time I hear that story. It's such an amazing, powerful story. And it just makes that image become, as you said, 10 times more powerful.
I agree with you completely. We use our vision to create, but we also use our vision to view images. And I remember once hearing someone, I don't know who said it, but they said that if someone looks at your image and doesn't get the message that you created, then you've failed. You didn't communicate your message.
I think that's
And
wrong.
I thought maybe that's true in certain circumstances. But when I think of my images as being a diary entry, they were written for me. They were expressing what I felt. And I don't intend the viewer to get that same message. And I'm grateful that there were 15 other different interpretations of that Auschwitz image. And ironically, not one of them that I've ever heard was the same as the one that I felt.
Wow, that surprises me.
Yeah, I was blown away
Yeah,
because I did a class on that once and I had everybody say, what did you get from this image? Not one.
that's amazing. I
So did it fail? No.
think so.
They used their own vision to interpret it through their life experiences. I think about the whole series, The Ghost of Auschwitz-Birkenau, and then doing that exhibit at the Dallas Holocaust Museum. And that woman, Edith Molnar, is being pushed from from image to image in a wheelchair and looking very closely at each image. And I think about the story there. I went up and I said, hi, my name is Cole. These are my images. And she raises this arthritic, bony finger and says, those are my images.
Ugh.
And she had been interned at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Now, that doesn't tell you what the images are saying, but it tells you a bit of the story, which I think makes it more, I don't know, powerful. I don't know what the right word is.
Oh, to me, that one brought me to tears the first time you told that story. To hear her say that these are mine. And I think there was a shift for you, if I'm not mistaken, at that time where you realized that at that point they were not your images.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
way. I mean, they're still your images. You made them, you created them. I'm talking about in a very different space, right?
yeah,
They, at that moment in time, they did not belong to you. She was wrapped up in those images and they were all about her life there.
yeah.
I'm sure she was transported right back. And then again, now those images take on a whole new meaning because you know of her and her connection. And the fact that you succeeded enormously in bringing her back, probably in a horrific way, unfortunately, but nonetheless, it did. And now there's so much more meaning to that body of work. So,
Yeah, and just that one experience alone made the whole project worthwhile for me. Yeah, so
incredible.
I'd say I'm not big on these descriptive titles. I like the very simple ones. This one was called Run Aground because he got drunk and ran his boat aground.
I love
And most of them are very simple, number one, number two, number three. And I don't believe in telling a person what this image means, but I do enjoy telling the story behind the image. Kind of like that. Who was that guy who used to be on the radio? Remember?
Oh, Paul Harvey.
The rest of the story.
The rest of the
Like
story.
something like that. I like that.
I love that. Well, good show. Hey, a totally unintended show. I like when these happen. But I think we're going to talk about mentorship
Let's
in
do
our
that
next show.
next.
So if
Good.
that intrigues you, tune in for our next show.